Hello and welcome. I'm Maria Ressa. This is International Women's Day, and we're sitting with Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo. Vice President Robredo, thank you for joining us.
Maria. Thank you for having me again.
Well, the first question has got to be about International Women's Day. Are women in a good place in the Philippines?
I think the answer is both yes and no. Yes, because we're better off than many of our neighbors. In fact, the 2015 Gender Equality Index puts us at number 7, above the United States and above many of our other neighbors. But we need to do a lot of things still. I think there is so much inequality on the ground. We have seen that, especially now. These are difficult times for women, especially women politicians.
Right. You can bear the brunt of this. I mean, You're the highest ranking elected female government official. And it seems like we're living through a time of rising sexism and misogyny. How are you dealing with this?
It's difficult in the sense that before this administration started, I felt that we were already doing a lot of good strides as far as gender equality is concerned. We were talking about women empowerment already. We were talking about increasing our numbers as far as women in politics is concerned, women in governance is concerned, and then this happened. It is as if we were transported back in time when misogyny and bigotry were still accepted. There is so much of that we're seeing now. And it's not just me, but many other women politicians are at a disadvantage now because there's a prevailing culture of misogyny. When I was still a member of the cabinet, I had to bear a lot of, misogynistic remarks, meant as a joke, but these were remarks that were before unacceptable.
Right.
But it was always a question of what is more important for you to allow these remarks to affect the work that you have to do and just let it pass. It was a constant balancing act. And now we're seeing a lot of double standards again in society. We have seen how intolerant our people are to the faults of women politicians, but very tolerant as far as the faults of our male counterparts are concerned. So it's scary. It gives us a lot of anxiety if this will continue.
So for you, I mean, when did you didn't actually draw the line yourself, right?
Yes.
I mean, you had to deal with
Yes.
Nikki Luna, an artist, has an art installation of your dress because of the statement about your knees.
Yes.
But you didn't draw the line. You were actually asked to leave the cabinet. How did you deal with that? As for women in power who have to, where is the line between accepting what is normally stated because it's part of the values of society and
when I started being a member of the cabinet, almost every cabinet meeting I was bearing the brunt of those remarks, and it was always a struggle as far as I was concerned. I was thinking, should I verbalize my discomfort on these things? And every time I would decide I would not, so as not to allow it to get in the way of the work that I was doing.
Right.
Until the president made a very public remark during the anniversary of Typhoon Yolanda. And I felt it was where I would draw the line. And I did issue a very public statement. And I don't know if it was one of those things that had me starting getting the ire of the president. But I became very public about it. I said that I took it as an offense, not only against me, but as against women in general. It's difficult in the sense that you were working in an environment where it was sort of accepted.
Yes.
And you had a mandate to do, you had responsibilities, and there was not a lot of time given to you. I knew that it was a ticking time bomb. I could be removed anytime, and I wanted to make a difference as fast as I could. But that very public remark during the Typhoon Yolanda anniversary, I felt that I could not take it sitting down anymore. I had to make public my discomfort, not just my discomfort, but my disgust over that remark. But it's continued until now.
Sexist statements stated by the people who say it always are laughed off as jokes.
Yes.
What advice would you give to women, young girls and women, Filipino women today? How should we be handling this?
It should be clear within us how much we will tolerate. Sometimes I've talked to a lot of women who has gone through this, and always the question is, where do I draw the line? So I think it is a lesson that I learned the hard way. Looking back, I was telling myself, should I have drawn the line early on, or was it a good decision for me to wait until that very public statement? So it's always, I think, for every woman who goes through or might go through that particular experience, it should always be very clear until, where the tipping point will be.
Rappler actually did a survey. It was, I think, one of the first gender surveys a few years ago. And what we found is that our values are the ones which allow this to happen. Like one finding of the survey was a question: if you have a choice between a man and a woman equally qualified, 71% of Filipinos we surveyed chose the man.
Yes.
Is this part of our values?
I think so. We won't readily admit to it. But we have seen a lot of this in the workplace where employers would prefer men over women because of the cultural responsibilities that are expected of us. We're childbearing. We need more time. We need more time at home. We need more time to take care of the children. So many of the employers regard that as a deficiency as far as women are concerned. So I think it's cultural. And it's not just in the workplace, even in schools. I think schools, teachers, administrators are more tolerant of male students than of female students. They exact higher standards for female students than male students.
Let's go a little bit to the dark side. A 2015 study on violence against children said that 18.2% of girls below 18 years old experienced sexual violence. That's 2015 study. That is a large increase from a 2013 study, the National Demographic and Health survey that said only 6% experienced sexual violence. Do you see this sharp increase, and what's behind this?
I can only guess. I think it's a combination of many factors. One such factor is we might be more efficient already in our recording of incidents of sexual violence. I was a human rights lawyer for a long time before I entered politics, and I was involved in an NGO where I was doing a lot of research on domestic abuse, sexual abuse, etc. And after the passage of Republic Act 9262, we saw a very sharp increase of incidents of domestic abuse. And this was a very informal research, but one glaring item was that we had a more efficient system of reporting. There was more awareness of what domestic violence was all about. There was a lot of trainings already as far as barangay workers are concerned, what exactly may be considered domestic violence and what may not be considered domestic violence. So that informal research shows that one of the reasons why that is so is because there is more awareness on the ground. The reporting system is more efficient now. And I hope, I can only second guess, but I hope that's one of the factors for the very sharp increase, because that's almost triple.
For many years, there was this culture of silence about rape, about sexual violence. When you say the sharp increases, so I guess that is a positive that women now feel they can speak about it.
I think the game changer as far as domestic violence is concerned is Republic Act 9262, and we can, I think, correlate it with sexual violence also. But with the advent of Republic Act 9262, we saw a lot of trainings already on barangay volunteer workers, helping victims of this kind of abuse, and the trainings were also a good way of awareness building, capacity building, not only of the workers but of the victims themselves. And I think that was what broke the culture of silence as far as domestic violence is concerned. And I would like to think that as far as sexual violence is concerned, awareness, accessibility to groups reporting, accessibility to services for victims would also be a big factor in the sharp increase in the stats.
So do you think this is normal? The 18 point, that's almost 20%.
It's not. The figures are astounding.
Alarming.
It's a cause for concern, and I think what we can do now is to go deep into the core of why the reasons behind the sharp increase. Because right now we're just second guessing that it's the efficiency of the system, but we might be wrong, and there's a very big chance that we could be wrong. So I think with the more than 300% increase, it is only right for us to delve deeper into the reasons behind it.
Last year we talked about the Sustainable Development Goals and how it's actually one of our framework for reporting about development in the Philippines and other countries we cover. In the Philippines, people talk about this demographic dividend. Meaning that our median age is 20.
Yes.
We're young. How can we make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality using that? What programs should be in place?
Number one is education and health. I think health and nutrition. I think those are the biggest factors wherein we can maximize our demographic dividend. If you look at the figures, they're not very encouraging now. The per capita spending for tertiary education puts us at the lowest.
Yes.
I think we're spending only about $548 per college student, where Singapore is spending more than $16,000.
They're investing in their future.
And Cambodia is even higher than what we're spending. So it's alarming in that sense, because if we're not spending enough on education, training, research, we would not be able to maximize that demographic dividend.
Right.
And the figures on stunting is also alarming.
Right.
We have at least 3.5 million stunted children.
And explain, stunting is when they don't get
the right nutrition. And the bad thing about it is it's an irreversible condition.
So they'll never reach their true potential.
They'll never reach their true potential. The workforce that we're expecting years from now will be crucial, but will not spell the optimization of that dividend. So unless we do something really dramatic about education and nutrition and health of our young people, we will never be able to enjoy that dividend.
Another study says that the success of the Sustainable Development Goals is dependent on how well we invest in our teenage girls. I mean, that doesn't sound right. Why? How?
A lot of things. One, we have studies which show that about 1% of our GDP is equivalent to 1% of our GDP is lost every year because of teenage pregnancies, and that's a lot.
Right.
We're glad that the K-12 program is already in effect.
Yeah.
I have my youngest daughter is among the first batch of K-12 students. And I think that's a very big leap as far as our education is concerned, not only because it brings us to a more competitive level, but also because it's really an enhancement of the workforce later on. We will have young people who are ready to join the workforce after basic education. We'll be able to maximize their skills and their potential. So that's a big thing. But you know, the scary part here is it seems that for a very long time we have not been consciously taking care of these very young people. Health, for example, access to health as far as our young people is concerned, are concerned is still an area where we should improve our services.
Yes.
I'm all for strengthening health services in the barangay level because that's where it's most accessible. We don't have a good universal health care, and you know, it's not just a disadvantage as far as our older generation is concerned, but more so with the very young people.
Yeah.
We're actively pushing now for the first 1,000 days program of the Department of Health. I think it's crucial also in taking care of nutritional needs and health of our young children. So, you know, these are things that jolt us from where we were before, but
Yeah.
it should be where our concentration should be.
Can I ask you, you mentioned teenage pregnancies. Where is the RH law now? It's been passed. Where is it?
No,
Are we feeling it?
There are implementations already of some of the provisions in the RH law in the barangay level, but there's a sort of a misconception because the Supreme Court has issued a temporary restraining order on some of the provisions of the RH law. But you know, it only pertains to some of the provisions of the RH law, but as far as implementation is concerned, it seems that the entire thing is affected. The Department of Health has pushed for the implementation of the provisions that are not included in the TRO. But you know, we know that health services have been devolved to the local government units, and it's really on a case-to-case basis. And it's a sad thing about it because it's an opportunity to push for better health, reproductive health of our young women, reproductive health of our women. But it has not been maximized in the extent that we want it to be maximized.
Let me ask you now about yourself after the cabinet. You look more relaxed.
Yes, I am.
After you left the cabinet, I guess the question now is, you're the highest ranking government official. You also are a member of the Liberal Party. And we've had a lot of things happen in the last 7 months, and people are asking, is there an opposition party? Where is the Liberal Party now? Where's it going?
It's difficult. I would have to admit that there's a lot of struggle as far as the party is concerned. As the highest elected official, our constitution says that I'm automatically the chairman of the party, although it's Senator Kiko Pangilinan who runs it on a day-to-day basis as president of the party, but we had to contend with a lot of realities on the ground. We were the supermajority also before, but because we did not win the presidency, a lot of our party mates transferred to other political parties, and to a large extent, it has crippled the party. Not only that, aside from the transferees, there are remaining Liberal Party members who, you know, there's a culture of fear that is pervading in the political scene. One such exercise that we recently saw was yesterday's passing of the reimposition of the death penalty bill in the House of Representatives. We've had a lot of members of the Liberal Party who did not vote against it, although there was a party stand. While we made it clear that there would be no sanctions, in the sense that we are just living up to the spirit of the party, where democratic processes will be exercised. But you know, we have a lot of party members who would rather be on the safe side get the ire of the administration. So those are the realities we have to contend with. While the party has stood up in many of the issues, we cannot really get the support of most of our members because really there's a sense of being cooperative to the administration. We started with that stance. We wanted to give our support to this administration, but there were just some things that we cannot tolerate anymore. The extrajudicial killings, this move to reimpose the death penalty, the move in the future to lower the age of criminal liability. Those are things that we cannot work with. So we needed to take a stand, but I'm a very new party member. I just joined the party when my husband died, but I was told that we were on the same boat also a few years ago, and it was a sort of a similar situation, but it's not a very good thing to be in, because I think parties should be should be more policy and principle oriented.
Right. Do you see this changing in the near future? Will there be an efficient opposition?
We decided, those who were left in the Liberal Party decided that we wanted to reinvent the party into something that it was before, where even if there are only very few of us, as long as we're very strong on many stands, but it's a transition period. It's frustrating, but there are realities on the ground that we have to contend with, and we hope that it won't be very long until we get back to our to where we want to be.
One of the most effective tools or weapons has been social media, both to empower and to be used as a weapon. You've been the target of many attacks. How do you deal with this? Misogynistic statements as well to women, right? How do you deal with these attacks?
I'm trying to take the high ground. There is always an urge to answer back, especially because most of the attacks against me are really very, very far from the truth. But every time there is an issue which comes out, the latest one was a barrage of attacks against my husband. You ask yourself if you want to go into this fight, because it's never, it's never fair game. You will be going against people who remain anonymous, who won't take accountability to whatever they would be saying. So you always ask yourself, will this be worth the fight?
Yes.
It's always a balancing act. You want to correct misconceptions. You want to correct so many false accusations have been hurled against me already. It's different when I was still in Congress, because when I was still in Congress, if false allegations will be hurled against you, your constituents will always know if they are true or not. But here, because there is no close relationships between you and most of your constituents, it's really fair game for everyone, in the sense that who convinces who. But it's a struggle. It's an entirely new ball game for all of us.
Yes.
And we're still searching for ways on how the truth should prevail over false information. I always tell myself that I don't think this will be the tune until the end of time. I was saying that this will just be a temporary thing, because at the end of the day, the truth will always prevail over falsehoods, and I hope I'm right.
It's a different world with
It's
globally
a different world.
alternative
And
reality.
The difficult thing about it is lies that are constantly being told becomes the truth.
Right.
So how it's really a whole new world that we're traversing, and we hope we would have the answers, but we just hope that people will be more discerning. People will take it upon themselves to check whether what they're reading online are true or not. It's different when traditional media was there, because traditional media was subjected to stringent journalism rules and ethics. And now there are no ethics to speak of. So when you were dealing with traditional media, you were sure that whatever is published has gone through a lot of vetting already, a lot of fact checking.
Yes.
But now it's anybody's game. Everyone has access to, anyone who can write has access to an audience. So it's difficult.
Initiatives, I'll move forward on your initiatives moving forward. Babaenihan.
Yes.
Babaenihan. What is this exactly?
Babaenihan is actually a program we're doing with the UN Population Fund, wherein we will go down the ground and engage people in finding policies, crafting policies, raising awareness of marginalization of women and girls. I think this is an important initiative in the sense that a lot of, especially rural women, did not really have access to such awareness campaigns in the past. That there is not much talk of not much discussion on how women are marginalized. Sometimes they are in that situation already without knowing that it's a form of marginalization. So the end game of the program is really empowerment. It's really the belief that if women understand everything that's been going around, they will be more empowered. And with empowerment comes a lot of things. The courage to fight back, the courage to make their voices heard, the courage to engage not only government but the several sectors of society. I think it's important. We're also doing another initiative with the UP Women's Office. It's called Angat Bayi.
Angat Bayi.
Yes, it's called Angat Bayi. This is more capacity building for women leaders, women who are in politics, women women in governance. We're excited about it in the sense that we have seen a lot of women in government already, but most of them have not had the chance to participate in initiatives such as this. So it will be an offshoot of our Angat Buhay program, which is the core program of the Office of the Vice President. It's an anti-poverty program, but we're already expanding the program with not just limiting ourselves to anti-poverty initiatives, but also capacitating our partners. We're doing a program with Sea Oil Foundation. It's called a Bridging Leadership Program, where the local chief executives and the other leaders of the local government units we're partnering with would have to go through this Bridging Leadership Program, because we think that this will maximize the absorptive capacity of the local government units. We're expanding.
Is this like a version of your husband's local government program?
It's actually a version of that. But with this, because we have very limited funds, we decided to pilot 50 local government units first, and these are 50 of the poorest, farthest, smallest LGUs.
I want to pull you back. So, you said this is when you're referring to women, the courage to fight back, to make voices heard. But you said something similar when you were talking about the Liberal Party. And in a weird way, the parallelisms of both politics and women, and at least in women's issues, women have spent decades in this fight. So your last thoughts on the parallels, I guess, your advice to women, your advice to those standing up to prevailing norms?
You know, as far as the Liberal Party is concerned, there is a certain sort of acceptance that at this point in the life of this administration, we will have a very difficult time convincing most of the politician members of the party to make their voices heard, you know, to try to be game changers, etc., etc. So, one of the things we're looking at is strengthening the party by organizing sectoral base, because the party is not really composed of an all-politician group, but it's really a party for the sectors. So I think it's the more realistic route to pursue, rather than pin all our hopes on our politician party mates. We think it would be good to solidify our sectoral base and start once again with learning about what the Liberal Party stands for, what liberal democracy is.
Is this a failure of liberal democracy? I mean, in a strange way,
I think to a certain extent, yes. I don't know if it was too much, too much hope that everything will turn out well in the end. As far as the party is concerned, there is an acceptance that we did not devote as much time as we should have on strengthening our sectoral base, so that when we lost in the presidential elections, we were left with almost nothing. Had we strengthened our sectoral base and depended on party principles, I think it's the more sustainable route that we should have undertook. But I think there's a realization now that we should have done it. We should have done it while we were in the administration, because it would have been easier to go around. It would have been easier to convince people that this is liberal democracy is the way
It's giving them
for all of
something
us.
back, right?
But I think that was one thing that we weren't able to do. And we were in the administration. Maybe we were so consumed with running the country that we forgot that we needed to take care of the base also. But I think we're going that route now. There's an acceptance of the failures. There's an acceptance of what we should have done but didn't do. And we hope it's not too late.
What does this say about the Filipino people today?
Despite everything that's been happening, I'm still very hopeful with the Filipino people. It's the situation we are in now is not unique to us. There's Brexit, there's the U.S. presidential elections. I don't want to call it a fad, but it's perhaps a wake-up call also for everyone who have been given the chance to lead, to try to find out what have we done wrong, because obviously we have done something wrong. So I think this is a way of the hump. I want to call it a hump because I don't want to look at it as as something that will prevail for a very, very long time. I hope that this hump is just a way of opening our eyes to what should be done. And I always tell everyone, even in the office, that we were made for times like this. These are difficult times, but we were made for times like this, and we can't let this moment pass without doing anything to change the rules of the game.
Last thoughts for the girls and women out there who are facing difficult choices like this every day. Do they stand up against power? Do they?
I was in 2 events today. I was in Quezon City earlier. Quezon City government, they had an International Women's Day celebration. And earlier this morning, I was at Miriam College. And the only, the talk really centered on reminding ourselves that the power lies in our hands. We cannot depend on the government. We cannot depend on any one leader or any group for that matter, but the power is in our hands. And it is up to us to choose the route we have to take. It is up to us to maximize that power. And I think that's really the message for everyone, even for my daughters. I always tell them that you cannot depend on anyone but yourself. So whatever difficulties we are going through, the solution is still within us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Marie.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We've been speaking with Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo. I'm Maria Ressa. Thanks for joining us.